Davey, thanks for joining me today on the Financial Planner Life podcast. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you. And thanks for inviting me on.
No
How are
problem at
you?
all. I'm good. Yeah, I'm very good, mate. As I was just saying to you prior to pressing record, I've been in sort of development mode, trying to think about what I should be doing with Financial Planner Life and the direction I want to take it, and ultimately how to monetize it. I've led it with marketing now for a good year. Luckily, I've got a recruitment company that can kind of fund that development. And I've never started a company where it's been marketing led first before bringing in a guaranteed income. So it's been quite an interesting process, but it's been a good one. So at the moment now I'm thinking I need to monetize it. So I've got a few business plan ideas. The whiteboard's looking a complete mental mess, probably inside of my head, but that's what I've been up to. Yeah. How about
Nice.
yourself? What have you been doing?
Sort of taking a break from the bank holiday. I'm not going to lie. Bank holiday was hectic with two kids.
Yeah.
So I had a nice break since I come back. But yeah, we've just been, as I'm sure a lot of people have been doing, helping clients tax their own stuff and looking after the kids. Like I said, pretty tired from that. Going on another walk. Endless walks, it seems. But yeah, no, just yeah, family time and work really.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's always great, I find, to get somebody on the podcast who is quite young, and also as well who's come from, when I say young, as in younger than the average aged financial planner.
No, I'm taking young.
Yeah, which is 56. So yeah, it's great to get somebody on who's younger, but it's also great to get somebody who's come from a professional sporting background as well. So your background being professional rugby for some years. So always keen and interested to understand what that's like to transition from professional sports into another career such as financial planning. Because, when you see job adverts, especially over the years, sports background desirable. People always love the idea that someone's come from a sports background. So I'm always intrigued to see, okay, is it transferable? What's the differences and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that in a little bit of detail. But I'll tell you what would be great. Could you just give us a kind of overview of who you are, your sporting background, and what you're doing right now?
Yeah, of course. So my name's Dave Lewis or Davey Lewis, depending on what you prefer. But yeah, I used to play rugby for sort of 12 years, played for a few clubs, which was great. And then did my exams whilst I was playing, and was always relatively conscious from a young age that, rugby wasn't going to be around forever, and I was going to have to do something else. And then sort of retired from full-time rugby in 2019, I think now. Be about 2 years. Yeah, so we retired from there, decided to play semi-professional and take up a job as a financial advisor. So that's about me. And then at the moment, I'm a support consultant is the job title, but I think that's the only firm I've seen has that sort of title. So I think it's probably more traditionally known as a trainee financial planner at Timothy James Partners, who are based in London.
Great stuff. So, in the early stages of your financial planning career then, aren't you?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I think it'd be 2 years this summer. So yeah, just under 2 years now. So I started at St James's Place practice called Cash Wealth Management, and then recently transferred from there. So I transferred as a sporting term actually. So I recently changed jobs and I moved to Timothy James and Partners in November last year.
Okay, great stuff. Okay, cool. Well, thank you very much for that brief overview. So we're going to dig into a little bit more detail. So when you were playing rugby then, who were you playing for?
So I started off at Gloucester, played there for about 6 years, which was, to be honest, it was a brilliant start. I came into a really young, exciting squad, and the year I came, there was a World Cup. So the two senior scrum halves were at the World Cup, which was great for me because it means that I got to play at sort of 18, 19 years old, which was awesome. And yeah, had 6 good years there. Met my wife there, so that's will always be good. That's why it's good. Moved down to Exeter, which was actually back home for me, really. Like, I'm a Devon boy, and Dad still lives there. And then had 4 really awesome years there. 4 really, really good years. Made loads of good friends. Managed to win a couple of trophies, which was brilliant. And then sort of my last 2 years of my career in fully professional rugby was at Harlequin, so up near Twickenham, and that consisted of a move to the big city. First time me and Rach had been out the southwest, and it's gone really well. To be fair, we've loved where we lived and happy we moved up.
Fabulous. So, a very decent career then within professional rugby. It's it was a few years then. That's good. So, how many people are you playing in front of then? What's the sort of typical crowd then for a professional rugby game?
I think averagely you'd say 9 or 10,000, but obviously your bigger grounds, you can get anything up to 26. I think it's Leicester's capacity. I think they'll probably be the highest in the Premiership, but I was fortunate enough to play in like a couple of finals, one at Twickenham, which unfortunately we lost, but it was in front of sort of 80,000 people, that was pretty cool. I won't lie. But yeah, that's not every day, unfortunately. It's for me, it was very much a one-off.
Did you find that to be a lot of pressure playing in front of like 80,000 people?
Before, yeah. So before, when you're not so in the moment, like in the game, and you're thinking, oh, I'm playing in front of 80,000 people, that's pretty scary. Or, I've got other mates that think that's the best thing in the world and they can't wait to get out there. Yeah. But during the game, I was always very focused on literally the game. So, I mean, even going back to when I was a kid, Dad would often, or Mum would often say, oh, did you hear me sort of shout for you when you scored a try or something? And I'd say no, because I was too, involved in the game. And it was similar when I was playing in front of a few more people than just Mum and Dad. But yeah, no, it was pretty cool. Like, looking back on it, there's something pretty awesome to say. Yeah.
Does it almost feel a bit of a blur, your career?
Yeah, it does. I think, and we've had this chat before, I think, but I was probably not guilty, but I'd probably always be thinking ahead rather than just really being present in that moment and just sort of, I wish now like I could run out at Twickenham again and sort of like look around and be like, this is pretty awesome. And, I've still got memories, but yeah, probably parts of it are a bit of a blur, which I wish I could remember more.
I can imagine that, walking out onto a pitch there with 80,000 people looking at you. Did you ever score a try in front of that many people?
No, I didn't. I wasn't one for scoring loads of tries. I can't remember. I only scored about, I don't even know actually, not loads. But yeah, I think in terms of like scoring a try or something like that, you do like good moments in games. So like I've made like plenty of breaks in games, and like you hear the crowd sort of, start getting excited.
Yeah.
But I was always a bit jealous of like the kickers, or to be honest, the wingers, where you've got that last minute kick or you score that last minute try, and the crowd just go ballistic.
Yeah.
And that's I've got loads of memories like that where I've been part of teams where, especially at Gloucester, actually, we would seem to come back in the last 2 or 3 minutes, especially at King's Own, which is their home ground, and the crowd would go absolutely mental, which was always pretty cool.
Oh, fabulous. Excellent. So here's a question for you. When you were playing professional rugby, did you know what a financial planner was? Did you understand the career of a financial planner?
I can honestly say I did know from a young age what it was. From about 21, I think is about right. I knew what one was. And I think I thought I knew what the role entailed. But I've definitely learned a lot more about it since actually doing the job. But yeah, before I was 21, no idea what financial planning was, no idea really what a pension was, no idea. I knew what a budget was, but I didn't have one. But yeah, so yeah, like 21 was probably a combination of events happened in terms of I got paid a bit more money, saw that I was getting taxed a lot more. I had a big injury myself. I also witnessed a couple of mates have to retire from rugby, one through injury and one just from the natural course of events and age taking their toll. And I basically saw, out of the two of those, I saw one retire through injury, but with lots of choice, with lots of time to decide what he wanted to do next. And I saw the other who retired through age, who, for want of a better expression, was kind of scratching around for a job basically. And through a combination of those events, it was, it sort of impressed upon me the need to to plan. At that time, I wasn't dead set on being a financial planner. It was just impressed that I needed to have a plan of some sorts.
Okay, so that sort of trigger, you started earning some more money, you started realizing you weren't invincible, and started thinking, wow, if my career comes to an end here, what am I actually going to do? Okay, great. Well, that's typical, isn't it? Because Kieran Bywater came on the podcast and he had a career in professional football, and we were talking a lot about his sort of career, and he was dead set. He was Old Trafford and he was playing, and he destined for great things, and all of a sudden, bam, career comes to an end, and it's soul destroying. It was soul destroying for him. I know he took it quite badly. So he's moved into financial planning, and but as he's moved into financial planning, he's realized like the percentage of people that don't make it, even if they get to the professional game, the percentage of people that actually get to the professional game that don't play past a certain amount of time, for a certain amount of time, and that players within certain leagues aren't earning as much money as you think they actually are. And there's a kind of elite amount of people that earn the ridiculous money that we see in the newspapers.
Yeah.
And actually, it's a kind of game where it's a career where at any time you can get taken out of it, and you might earn a great deal of money within a very short period of time. What do you do with that money? Are you putting it away? Are you speaking to a financial planner? And he was saying, like, if anyone never turned up to the ground in suits, it was like, well, the suits are coming, the suits are here. So he didn't really kind of, and we talked about that, and his style when he goes and speaks to when he goes and speaks to footballers now, like, he's not suited and booted and all that stuff. But very interesting professional sports, and the career of a professional sports star is not as we, in the stands envision it to be. It's not a life of luxury for everybody, is it? And if you haven't got a good, clear financial planning in place, then you could leave yourself in a sticky situation.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I listened to the Kieran Bywater podcast, and I think afterwards I actually Googled how many, like the percentage wise of how many people actually make it in professional rugby this was. And I'm sure it's probably even worse in football because there's so many more people that play it. But I think rugby was like 0.0036%, which I found staggering. I thought it'd be more, and football would be even less than that. And I think the word career always makes me laugh, because I kind of find it's just, and I had this conversation with another player, but it's a fantastic start in life if you use it, if you realise it's an awesome time in your life. To get paid to play something that you absolutely love is amazing, and you have the ability to use that time to, not just financially plan, but plan for all aspects of your life. A second career, or setting up a business if you want to. If you decide to utilize that time, and careers aren't too long. I think in rugby, and I don't know what it's like in football, but in rugby it's about 7 years as an average, and that's from taking a player from 18. So you're thinking if you're 18 and you could be finished at 25. Unfortunately, there's some very high profile players that have burst onto the scene, done fantastically well, and then had a career-ending injury at sort of 22, 23. And that's devastating, because not only, mainly that they've probably not achieved everything they wanted to achieve in the game. But probably secondly, they had some sort of plans in place that entailed a career that was longer than 2 or 3 years. And financial planning, I think, is really important with that. And I also think the planning that sort of organisations such as like the Rugby Players Association in rugby, and I think the PFA or LAPS, I know do a lot of work in this in football. The planning that they do around career and just developing, yourself as a person outside of the sport is really important to do it, and it's important. I would urge anyone to do it as soon as you can. I thought I was actually pretty well planned in terms of career from moving outside of rugby. But the one thing, looking back on my career, I wish that I had more urgency in preparing for it earlier.
Okay, so your advice to somebody who's playing professional rugby right now is to actually think about the career after rugby.
Yeah, I think so, and for many reasons, not just for having an option. I think the reasons why I think it's great is one, I think it gives you options. You don't then have to just dive into the first thing. Two, if you start early, you'll discount a lot of things. You know, if you just think, because I know a lot of players will say, I'm not sure what I want to do. But you can probably try a few things and discount a few things that you don't enjoy doing, which will help. And then when it does come to the eventual moment where you're not a sports person anymore, you're going into a role that you enjoy, that you hopefully will get some fulfillment out of, that you feel valued in, which goes a long way to help you sort of change into a different career, so from a well-being perspective, I guess, more than anything. Feeling good about yourself is quite important. We're learning about it quite a lot at the moment, I guess, with COVID. So I think, the main things are, do it as early as possible, because you never know when it's going to end. And I don't say that from a negative point of view, because I think there's plenty of negative press around athletes transitioning. I say it from a positive point of view, hopefully, that if you actually take the time to prepare yourself, anything's possible. Beyond sport, I think there's a bit of chat, I'd say, or a general message around, you've got it really good at the moment, it's not going to be as good after football, rugby, tennis, golf, athletics, whatever it may be. And that's not true. It doesn't have to be true. But it does take, takes you to take the onus and prepare.
Your life doesn't end just because your sporting career ends. You can do something else. Your sporting career doesn't define you. There are different stages within your life that you can move into.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
When you were playing rugby, did you find it quite a worry that, was it going to come to an end next season?
I did when I had kids, to be honest. I think I was relatively lucky that, well, not lucky. I was doing all right, that I would play quite a lot every year. I think on average, say like 20 games a year. So I was always relatively confident that even if, although it would have, I didn't want to move from some of the clubs, if it did happen, I would get some sort of offer. So, the dream could carry on almost. But yeah, when I got kids, it definitely, I think just the extra responsibility, and, all fathers and mothers would understand that. It dawned on me then, like, it's not just me that, I need to provide for, and I'm lucky that the race works as well. But yeah, that definitely worried me a little bit. But then in reality, when I look back on it, I was worried for a lot longer than just when I had kids. It really hit home then. And that's where I go back to, like, if I had planned and I had a plan B in place, like, one of my probably biggest regrets is I don't have a uni degree. Right. And I think that's probably just a status thing, because I know that uni degrees don't automatically mean that you get a job after, or also you get a job from it. But I think just having something in my back pocket that's like, oh, I've got it there just in case, that would have made me feel a lot safer, probably.
Kind of like a feeling of security. That's your security instinct, isn't it? That feeling of, okay, well, at least I've got a degree. If I do leave, then I can go and get another job. So in the back, you got that in your back pocket. Whereas what you're thinking to yourself is, I'm playing rugby. What am I going to do after that? What can I do after rugby? Christ, I'm going to go from a rugby pitch to doing what? Working in a factory? I think we all think like that. I think like that as a business owner. Like, I run a recruitment agency. I have done for the last 13, 14 years. I'm not going to lie. Sometimes I think I don't want to do this anymore, and I think, God, what could I do? Could I do something else? And then I get this feeling come over me. I'm 40 next year. And I'm thinking, like, well, what can I do at 40? I've got 14 years in recruitment. I must just be stuck in recruitment. And then you forget you've got a multitude of skills that you've learned. If it all came tumbling, and we all had this feeling over COVID, because nothing was secure. And I'm blessed, mate, that my business is still here. I'm blessed for the people that are in it that have made it work. Because I'm really, really very grateful for some of the guys who work for me, because they worked incredibly hard and kept this business afloat during that period. But, that feeling of like, oh shit, what am I going to do next? I think we all have that. That's just your kind of classic fear of not feeling good enough or capable enough to step into something, where actually, as a rugby player, you've got insane skills, insane skills, insane experience. Like, I'd like to talk about some of that really, moving from the game of rugby into a professional position such as financial planning. Is it true? Are there transferable skills from playing rugby into financial planning?
Yes, definitely. I don't think they're probably the ones that get written on a CV very often. But yeah, I think so. From rugby players, I think we're quite social, and I don't mean that from like a seeing us down the pub sort of thing. I just mean that from although when we're allowed, we probably would do that. What I mean is that rugby players are quite often asked to go to sponsors events after matches in the week, so they're quite used to walking into a group of people they don't know and starting a conversation. And I think what I've learned from actually doing the job full time is that all the technical skills that are obviously you actually need them and are brilliant, but if you can't speak to someone, or you can't open a conversation, or you can't actively listen to someone, you're going to struggle a little bit. So I think that's probably the main thing, is the ability to communicate relatively well. And then the other thing is, and it was interesting to hear what you just said there about your own team. I think players that come from, or athletes that come from team sports, understand the value of a team, understand the value of everyone's value within it, and their role that they play. So I think that we're probably, without even knowing it, relatively good at working in that sort of environment where it's not just one person that everything relies on. You need to ask to delegate, or certain people do certain roles. That's pretty key. Then you've got your cliches that are true, that will get talked about being driven and wanting to be the best. And I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. Although at the same time, like what would be the best in financial planning? How there's no sort of prize at the end of the year for the I'm sorry, there is a few prizes, but how do you say which is the best person? It's subjective, isn't it? But I think from my point of view, I speak about myself. I think athletes will want to develop all the time. They're not happy, or they'll feel itchy or uncomfortable just if they feel they're stood still. They want to know that they're getting better, and it's that marginal gains from the Sky Sports team. They understand the value in that. I think that they know that it takes time. They're not always the most patient, because they're used to sort of, especially sort of in the football and rugby environments, they're used to results every week. So I think that's something that if a younger athlete's listening to this, I think you just be aware of that. That's a tricky thing to fall into, because you're expecting, or you're used to having a Saturday result, reviewing it, getting better and cracking on again the next week. Whereas what I found in this week for all professions, I expect, is that the results are slightly longer. Like you have to sustain your training, or your period of exertion for longer, and you won't know if it's a good or a positive or a negative outcome for maybe months, which is requires a lot of patience, and it's hard to understand at the time of retiring, probably.
That's a really good point. That kind of, it's not so much instant, I suppose partly instant gratification, but it's also instant feedback. And when I say instant, like you say, at the end of the work, at the end of the week for you is like, you have a big game, and then there was you either win or you lose. Then you review what you do. Then you're back on the training field and you're out playing again. You're trying to better improve yourself all the time. Yeah, you're absolutely right. In the professional world, now I can speak very much so of like recruitment, for example. Everything's a long game. You might occasionally get some short little wins come off, but it takes time, to place somebody in recruitment. And it's the same for financial planning. In most professional services, it takes time to build the client relationship up. You might not do a deal with them in week one, and you might not get any feedback from them. And a lot of the time you're kind of like finding your way, thinking, am I doing this right? Am I not doing it right? So you're kind of always looking for almost some sign to say that you're doing okay.
Yeah, I'd agree.
And that would be tricky. Yeah, I can understand how that would be tricky if someone has had a pat on the back every time they've done, like rugby or something, or football. Like, you're doing well because you're being told, or your stats are good, or similar, I suppose, in the professional services, but it's in a different way. And I guess, again, it's not, although you have high pressure, it's a different level of pressure when it comes to football or rugby as it does to a role such as financial planning. So, okay, great. So you were playing rugby, brilliant. And you moved into financial planning. Now, how did you actually get into the profession, financial planning?
So basically, my last contract, I was 30, I think. And I had a +1 in my contract, and basically the club cancelled it. And I looked around and we didn't want to move, and I was qualified by this stage. So it was more like a family decision that, you know, I have the ability to take a job in London using my qualifications, which means that we don't have to move. And I had got that job just by applying, literally like Googling financial advisor jobs. I probably should have come on Recruit UK.
Definitely should have.
But yeah, I just Googled it and applied for a few, and I was successful, obviously, with Castell. And it was literally Friday, I can't remember when it was, but at the end of May, on a Friday at the end of May, I was training, probably having a barbecue or something after training. And then on the Monday, I walked in a suit to London.
Wow.
Yes, it was, and that was my choice, to be fair. I was very much, I think I was injured at the end of the season, so I hadn't played for a couple of months. So I felt rested. I basically just done beach weights for 2 months. And just felt like I wanted to crack on, really. So yeah, I walked in on 1st of June or near enough the 1st of June into bank, which was, to be honest, exciting at the time. Like I was nervous. I was nervous and everything beforehand, as anyone would be before like a big change. But I was also excited to start something new. Finally put into practice some of the things that I'd learned from studying, really.
Did you, interesting that you went online, found a job and you got in there. Yeah. Now, obviously your background in professional sports is always, advantageous, I find, especially within the financial services. Absolutely. Did you say you did your qualifications? When did you do your qualifications then? So you had your qualifications under your belt already, your level 4, or some of them? Where were you?
I got the level 4. So like I said earlier, I started doing, so I took an interest in financial planning at around 21.
Yeah.
And the RPA, the Rugby Players Association, the rep sat down with me and just sort of said, "What are you interested in doing after rugby?" And I said, "I don't really know." And he just said, "Well, what are you interested in?" And I said, "Well, I'm reading a lot around money and newspapers. And what I used to love doing is I used to love, I think it was the Sunday Times, but they used to have a section in it on a Sunday. And it would say like an interview with you, Sam, and it would be like, "Sam, what do you do with your money? How do you organise your personal finances?" And that's all I used to love reading. But from that, I then, read a bit more and learned a bit more about, ISAs or all that sort of stuff. Got put in touch with Bruin Dolphin, a BDM there. He basically, I did loads of work experience with, and he sort of said, "Look, if you want to be a financial planner or financial advisor, these are your exams you need to do." So I knew that I needed to do my ROs at least. And I basically ticked off 1 or 2 every year. And yeah, so I was qualified by the time I retired. So I think I need to do my RO6, I think, by the time Quinn has told me that I wasn't going to be staying around there. So got RO6 done and was ready to go, basically. Well, okay. I thought ready to go. As we mentioned previously, there's a lot more to the job than just the technical side of it.
Absolutely. So, okay. So you, obviously rugby background, you had your level 4 qualifications. Now, let me ask you this question. You've obviously been in the profession now for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Do you think, knowing what you know now, it's beneficial to have your level 4 qualifications going into, if someone's listening to this now, right? And this is the thing. A lot of people without experience of financial planning come to me and say, well, they're crying out for financial planners. I'm part qualified. I want a financial planning role. Why can't I be a financial planner now? Or I've got my level 4 qualification. Now I want to be a financial planner. Why won't anybody take me on? What's your experience then, knowing over the last 2 years working within financial planning? Why do you think it is so difficult for somebody with a level 4 qualification to get the job straight away?
It's a good question, obviously. The thing is that we obviously know that there's firms out there that do take, new recruits straight off level 4. I think in terms of why it's difficult is because there's a lot more to the job than just getting those exams, and those exams are really important to have because you've got to have the technical knowledge, and I think at some stage it will maybe move up to level 6, but I think it goes back to what we talked about a little bit earlier about the other skills, the soft skills, but also client acquisition. Where are you going to get clients from? Like I'm sure any firm, whether you're employed or self-employed, will want you to go and get some clients and look after them well. And it's so you've got communication, you've got client acquisition, you've got how to actually run your diary and the process from taking a new client to to onboarding them, and then that ongoing process. For me, what I struggled with, and I think someone that's maybe been in the industry before wouldn't, is was all the admin. It was when I first went to St James's Place, the admin involved in like I said, taking the client on that process was overwhelming. And especially my first 6 weeks, I'd done work experience, but obviously I'd probably been shielded from that aspect from it. But that's something to take into account because, you're not just out seeing clients all the time. You're not, that's the great part of the job, and it's fantastic. And that was one of the attractions to me, but there is an admin side to it as well, which, you've got to be very good at too. So in terms of what I would say is, I think getting level 4 is brilliant because it shows that you've got a bit of initiative, and especially if you've self-funded it as well, it shows that you're serious about wanting to become a financial planner. But I think in terms of why they're not getting roles, I would ask maybe what is it about being a financial advisor that they really want out of it, and do they think that they would be in a better position to be a financial advisor if they go and say, can I just come in and learn from you? Can I be a paraplanner, or can I be a trainee advisor? I think, I mean, I'm not one for saying you need to be a certain age or you need to have a certain experience to be a really good financial advisor. I know loads of financial advisors that are very young that are really good, are really great firms. So it's not an age thing. It's more just having that experience of the whole job rather than just doing your exams, I'd say.
Okay, cool. That's a good answer. So you went in at St James's Place as a financial planner, or did you go in as an administrator or a power planner? What was your entry into the profession?
I went in as a financial advisor. So straight in as a financial advisor, which was good. Like I've learned a lot from that. I think I've learned a lot around the business skills. Like I said, how to definitely the admin side of it, how to keep organised and everything that goes involved in that. But again, if I probably had my time again, like I said to you earlier, I would have probably studied with more urgency earlier in my rugby career, probably done a little bit more networking and work experience, and maybe then given myself a bit more of a choice of roles to go into. Because I think my main focus at the moment is I'm still on that journey to get to where I want to be in terms of all-round knowledge, not just technical. And if you're an advisor, you've probably got some sort of expectations of bringing in business and looking after not every role, but a lot do. And looking back, I probably didn't want that in the early stage of my career, which is one of the reasons why I moved.
Okay, well, that's a really good point because St James's Place notoriously is about generating business. There's a lot of people I've spoken to from St James's Place, and when they go in there at entry level, the whip is cracking. Get some business on board, get you through the academy, get you in there, writing business, getting clients, and that's kind of their model. And they're all about targets and everything. And listen, that's not a problem. I'm not here to slate that at all. But it's interesting because if you're not used to that, and you're going in to learn the role of a financial advisor and what they do, and you've got all the administration and compliance and everything that you've got to get right. I mean, it's a huge pressure upon you to do it. And unless you've got an administrator or a power planner that's supporting you, it's going to be tough, isn't it? You're going to be working long hours, and you're going to be kind of like, because I'm guessing as well, what one piece of paper works the same, is it? It's always kind of different, you know, and, you know, you're having to make sure you're doing everything right, but there's so many different things to do. So I can imagine it can be incredibly overwhelming within the first year of doing it. And if you're going straight in as a financial planner, even more pressure upon you if you've then just, you know, expected to write business on top of all that work as well.
Yeah. Yeah, there is. I think looking back, it was probably my mistake almost for not knowing myself enough to know that I'd want to be developing myself as a financial planner. That's what I love doing, was for myself. And you know, obviously you get a couple of people asking you in the change rooms, etc. Yeah, I loved basically the planning part. You know, I wasn't really aware of everything else that goes with it. You know, I just thought that's what you did. And that's what I love doing. And yeah, that's probably is my mistake to not looking, you know, further into other options really.
I don't think,
but like I said, I learned a lot from it, and
yeah,
I definitely benefit from the experience. But yeah, I think in looking back, if I was to advise myself again, it would be, you know, what do you really want out of it? And like you said, there was people that started at the same time as me, with slightly more experience, but like a similar level, that have done really well. And, you know, they're really happy there. It was just for me personally, I want to be the best sort of financial planner I can be for my clients. And to do that, I felt like I needed a bit more experience, maybe needed a few more years under my belt, but also just, you know, being mentored and stuff, and not having that pressure, being afforded the time to, you know, learn different aspects.
That makes total sense. Yeah, to know what it is you're actually doing. And not just throwing yourself in the deep end and sink or swim attitude, because at the end of the day, you are dealing with people's money. And you can have all the confidence in the world and bravado or whatever, but if you don't want to be a blagger, do you? The last thing you want to do is blag somebody just because you're under pressure to achieve targets or bring business in. And I think also as well, your transferable skills, as you mentioned earlier, from rugby, are, you know, teamwork and resilience and ambition and all those things, you know, hard work, grafter, you know, all those things are fantastic and transferable. But the one thing you picked out there as well is just those soft skills are the things that you might, well, you know, if you went and worked over in a bank for 4 years or something like that, or you worked in a mortgage role or a sales role, anything really where you're client facing and you're sort of building the confidence and understanding of how to build rapport and ask fact-finding questions, open questions, and, you know, understanding the relationship process, like even things like valuable things such as sales techniques, you know. I think those are the things that sometimes if you catapult yourself into the role of a financial planner too quickly, you haven't had the time to learn that, you know, and it's a big part of the job, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I just want to go back and say, I wasn't a blagger. Like I basically specialised in sports people.
Okay.
Because obviously I have a lot of experience within that. But then when you know, the firm I was in were mainly based around city people. So if I ever came across one of those, sometimes it would be fine. But, you know, other times I was just like, oh, this isn't really an area that I'm an expert in, if that makes sense. And that's where I thought, do you know what, there's so many areas in financial planning, and you can't be an expert in all of them. I'm not saying that. But also I was just thinking, you know, I want to be somewhere when the next time that sort of situation comes up, I'm actually confident and I know my stuff, and I can sit down in front of someone and say, what you should do is this, and I'm the sort of right person for you. Sorry. So I wasn't a blagger at all.
Not sort of suggesting you are. I just think sometimes as you mentioned there, it's that confidence inside you that you can deliver. But at the same time, I think people can almost pretend that they can deliver when they can't. And you're actually being more honest with yourself by saying that at that stage in your career, you wanted to work with those types of clients, but you didn't have the experience to do it. So you wanted to get more experience, more mentorship, more training and development. So eventually you can start working with that wider audience. But did you find, you mentioned there about working with sports, I suppose sports people, people from a sporting background, and I hear that a lot. I hear financial planners that like to operate within that sort of niche environment, and that's about picking your niche, isn't it? You know, I had somebody on the podcast last week, and his niche is actually like scaffolders, builders, plumbers, and he calls it the grafters. And that's his market, the grafting market. Never heard of financial planner working in that market. You always hear like, oh, I work with accountants and solicitors and all that kind of stuff and high net worth clients. He works with grafters. You know, he's got a guy, one of the top hairdressers up in the Northeast, and he works with him and he generates loads of leads for him. You can imagine hairdressers talk, don't they?
Yeah.
He gives loads of free advice to this guy, talks about what he's doing with his money and all of that. And this guy's just telling everyone who sits down and referring loads of people across. And the people's hair he cuts are usually people that are quite well known, quite wealthy, whether they're sports background or off the TV or something like that as well. So that kind of thing. And he loves working with grafters and helping like families, you know, because he said to me, he said, if I wasn't doing that, I'd be up on the scaffold, Sam. If I wasn't doing financial planning, I'd be up doing some scaffolding, you know? So I like that. And I think picking a niche sometimes within financial planning sets you up to kind of be in the environment and around the people that you want to spend time with, that you enjoy talking about other things outside of planning as well, because then you're relatable. So I was keen to understand, does your background in sport, did it help you develop new business opportunities as a financial planner within the sporting professions?
Yeah, massively. To be honest, I think my first few clients were all rugby players, and I think what helped is that they would see me studying, and they knew exactly what I was doing, studying for, and then when it came to the time around, I was actually doing it as a job. You know, like you said before, like a lot of players don't have advice, and when I've been in the changing room with them, or just have that shared experience of being a sportsman, knowing, as they like to say, what the crack is and how it works, and also probably their sort of fears around what lies beyond it. You are very relatable, and you sort of have that instant trust, which is something that all planners and advisors are always looking to build with their clients. So yeah, there was the majority of my clients were sporting, and so that's not to boast. That's just who I was best working with, really. I think at the time, and yeah, it worked very well. And like you said, you go there and you have these conversations, and it's not all just about it's about their life, really. It's not really about their money. Their money just comes as a secondary element to it. And if you're comfortable having those conversations and you are very relatable and you've got a lot in common, those conversations generally go better, than if you don't. So yeah, it worked quite nicely. I don't think I really went after them hugely hard. It was just, the first couple came to me, then got a few referrals, etc. from that. So it's been just like a nice steady growth from that side of it. But I think that I'm very fortunate to have the background I do have, because, like I said, a lot of people in that environment will have that instant trust of you because you've been there and done it. You've been in their shoes, and yeah, you're probably in a good place to advise. Now you're not right in it.
Fab. Okay. So have you ever used your background in rugby to your advantage when it comes to marketing yourself, say on social media, for example?
Yeah, a little bit. I did a little bit of social media marketing probably about a year ago now. But it would mainly be around using like sporting terms or things like that in marketing. I think it, yeah, like you said, if you've got a niche, then you've got to just direct that message to that group of, or that category of people, that group of people, and you've got to almost talk in their language. So similarly to sort of Kieran not turning up to a football club in a suit, I'm not going to talk. I mean, I wouldn't do it anyway, but I'm not going to sort of use a load of financial jargon to talk about financial planning, I would put it in their language, or language that, you know, is more relatable, that they'll understand, like, you know, at the click of a button, rather than sort of maybe having to go away and Google it or ask me what they mean. So yeah, I have used my sporting background in social media a little bit. I haven't used social media too much recently, but yeah, I'm not afraid to use it. I think from my perspective now, like, why wouldn't I? It's you know, it would make sense. Like, those are the sorts of people that I, you know, really enjoy working with, that I want to work with, that I'm very good at working with. So why wouldn't I use my background, you know, to sort of speak to those people?
Do you kind of worry that if you almost pigeonhole yourself into a market, let's say, or a niche, that's you're setting yourself up for life as being that person? Does that concern you or worry you doing that? Then you get that fear of missing out then, don't you, really?
Well, yeah, do you know what? I did think that, or I did worry about that, but then I would aim my marketing at that category, but that doesn't mean that I wouldn't work with someone else that I enjoy getting on with. It's and it's, yeah, you if you market to everyone, then you kind of, in my opinion, look like a generalist, and you know, it's difficult then to really be an expert in everything. Whereas if you market to a certain group, then you know, you can look like an expert in that area, and obviously if you actually are authentic with that, then that helps massively too. But it doesn't mean that I wouldn't work with someone that's not from a sporting background, or that I would ever feel, you know, that like I've pigeonholed myself. Because I think, you know, we talked about this before, but feeling like you pigeonholed yourself is probably just a story that you've maybe told yourself, isn't actually the reality. And yeah, like you've asked me there, no, I mean, sorry, yes, I was worried, but no, I don't feel like I pigeonhole myself. That's just who I market to. That's, you know, where I would choose to spend my time and effort, sort of getting my message across.
The good thing as well is that it's like almost piggyback marketing as well, because if you're piggybacking off of your background, your sporting background, okay, and you're using that as a means to be able to elevate yourself above the noise. Now, if you create content that's then talking about your sporting background or relating to sport, okay, that's an area of your expertise and something you can talk about. It's relatable because you were also a professional rugby player. Now, that can be positioned to professional rugby players because you, empathize with their situations. You can understand their fears, their future worries, their desires, what they want, what they don't want, what they're going through, basically. So there's a whole area that you can do that. But at the same time, you're also talking about sport. And people love sport, don't they? You know, people love sport. And if it's a sportsman, you know, who's a financial planner, then a guy who's interested in sport would love to have a financial planner who's a sportsman. You know, ex-rugby. You know, some people love talking rugby, don't they? You know, they love talking rugby. They love talking football. Oh, you used to be a footballer. Brilliant. Yeah. Oh, my my financial advisor was an ex-professional rugby player. You know, so it gets banded around. So you've got to use it, haven't you, to your advantage. But at the same time, you know, I can imagine also it's like you're now a financial advisor, aren't you? You're now a financial advisor. So you've moved on from your career from professional rugby. Is there an element of you that doesn't want to kind of use that past experience and you want to like almost start afresh and I'm a financial planner? Or do you use it and use it to your advantage to get yourself out there?
I mean, I want to be an expert as a financial planner just for myself. You know, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. I think the reality is, and I saw an article recently, and I can't remember who it was, but there was I think it was some fund manager for someone. And the article was ex-professional rugby player moves from so-and-so to so-and-so. I can't remember who it was. And I clicked on it because I was like, oh, who's that? And it was some guy that was like 50 or something like that. And I just thought then, I was like, okay, he's still an ex-professional rugby player at 50. Like, this potentially will never leave me. So, you know, the reality is I was a professional rugby player. I am a financial planner. I don't think the two need to be separated. If people want to talk, you know, say he's an ex-professional rugby player, or, I mean, it'd be lovely for someone to say he's just a really, really good financial planner. Go and have a chat with him. Oh, he's also an ex-professional rugby player. That would be awesome. But, you know, that's their conversation. That's, you know, it's not, I can't control that. What I can control is how I look after clients, developing my knowledge, making sure that basically everyone's catered for, and hopefully they're just doing a good job for them all around.
Great. So you're at St. James's Place, okay? And what I love is that, your first, I spoke to a guy on a podcast recently, your first job doesn't define you in financial planning. So I think people kind of like think, oh, my first job, that's going to be, this is the one, I'm going to be a financial planner or whatever it might well be. And a lot of people don't, but they have 2, 3, 4 jobs before they establish where they should be. And some people stick in a role for 5 years and then become a financial planner with the same company. Your first role doesn't define you. It's just part of the journey to where you're getting. So you left St. James's Place. It wasn't the role for you. Fine, not a problem. So where did you go?
So I went to Timothy James Partners. So they're an independent firm based in London again. We've just moved offices actually to Piccadilly. I was contacted about a role there that was, like I said before, support consultant, which is basically you're a financial advisor, but you're being mentored by a couple of the very senior advisors. And the reason it attracted me was because they basically, work on only sort of getting business from professional connections, but also their clients. So there's no other types of marketing. But also the types of client they look after are sports, media, entertainment, music clients. So for me, obviously the sports was a huge tick. I just felt more comfortable with them. And obviously they've got, again, they're not pigeonholing themselves because they look after, lawyers, and many of those clients have their own businesses and, other sort of executives in the city. But, they do have a lot of those types of clients, as well as the fact that, like I said, the mentorship. So there's no pressure on me other than to invest in myself, basically, for the first sort of 12 to 18 months, which is what I wanted. It's gone really well so far. I've really enjoyed it.
Well, talk to me a little bit about it then. So what does good mentorship look like in financial planning?
So at TJP, it basically means that I go into all the client meetings with the advisor, take parts of the meeting, and that will develop as they see fit and as I feel comfortable. Then I sort of help with the follow-ups, the cash flow planning, any sort of action points, liaising with clients, liaising with the team. That's what it looks like a sort of TJP. And I think you just get like we said earlier, you're getting a well-rounded experience of the whole process, and hopefully as TJP are quite a social company, and obviously everyone's been a bit restricted with that over COVID, but there's a few events going on, and they sort of help you with introducing you to their own contacts, whether that be agents or accountants, solicitors, and obviously helping you develop your own at the same time.
So you're now working in more of a referral from a higher level business, aren't you, really?
Yeah, it's all personal relationships. It's all referral. There's no, like I said, there's no other types of marketing. So it's definitely more sort of natural for me to do that.
I was going to say, do you find it more natural and more comfortable in that? Did you sort of feel that in the comparison between the two roles, one was more sort of like, I don't know, more cold calling, more sort of cold face business development, whereas this is more relationship based?
I think, I don't know whether it's cold, but like I said, there's no, you get given time to sort of develop your relationships, and we all know that getting a referral from a trusted partner or a friend or something like that goes a long way to helping you actually onboard that client. But there's no, what I like is that there's no rush, and they also help you along the way. You're not just expected to go out there and all of a sudden have accountants, solicitors, agents knocking on your door. You've got that time to sort of speak to people and just be interested in what their business is and seeing how maybe you can help them firstly without asking something in return or expecting something in return.
So one thing I talk to a lot of financial planners about is training and development. you know, and I get a few trainers and developers on the podcast I've spoken to. There's a lot of people now training out coaching, etc. What training recently or coaching have you had recently that's made a really, really big impact on your career?
So as we chatted about, I've gone through the Know Thyself Coaching Academy, so the certificate in relational financial planning with Tina Weeks and Julian, which has been brilliant. To be honest, definitely would recommend it to anyone looking to either get into coaching or just sort of enhance their own financial planning proposition. To be honest, that's been really good, very enlightening. Definitely increased my self-awareness, and looking forward to continuing to sort of put it into action with clients.
Just gives a kind of, you know, I'm intrigued. I've sat in on one of their sort of taster sessions, but it's very much a taster. You know, it's very much a taster. So just give us a kind of overview, really. Like you say, self-awareness, and the term know yourself, know thyself is about getting to know yourself, isn't it?
Yeah.
How can you get to, you know, how can you help a client if you don't know yourself, I can imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So just give us an overview. What is it? You know, what did you learn? Why is it added value to your career?
So the big thing, like the big message is how your emotions basically affect your behavior. And the bit in between is how emotions then affect your thoughts, which then affect your behavior. And I mean, like, as an example, there's stories that I've told myself for years now, which I never actually realized probably the impact of them. And those stories are sometimes helpful, and they're sometimes, you know, a bit unhelpful. So, I mean, when I was playing rugby, and I'm sure that a lot of athletes would be like this, but, you know, I used to tell myself, oh, I'm not good enough. So I need to train harder. And it's, you know, I think it's a boxer said it, or someone, you know, train as if you're number 2, but then play as if you're number 1. It's that sort of mentality, which is, I think, brilliant in a sporting context that keeps you humble, keeps you working hard, etc. But then if that creeps over into other parts of your life, then that's when maybe a few challenges or issues may arise. And, you know, like even coming onto this podcast before, I'm thinking, oh, why is Sam wanting to have a chat with me? That sort of thing, which, you know, isn't helpful to be having those thoughts. But at least like now, all I can say from it now is that I have those thoughts, and then I can actually deal with it there and then, because I can write it down, I can sort of think it through. And I guess for me, the biggest thing from it is obviously coaching, having a coach is still really, really important for me, but I can almost have a sort of write it out and work things out in my head. So when an event happens and I have an emotion about it, that emotion will trigger a thought, and it's not always true, and it's not always helpful. And it's, you know, just being able to sort of almost step back and think, okay, that happened, I felt like this is what I thought. Are my thoughts actually true, or are they false, or actually do I just not know? You know, and it's, you know, the sorts of things where you'll be worrying about something, maybe, I mean, like public speaking is a big one, isn't it? And like I remember having my wedding speech, I panicked for like months over having a chat with, having a speech prepared and chatting about it basically. And you know, you're catastrophizing about something that's not happened. And it's, you know, it's been able to have, that's just one example, but it's been able to sort of realize that you're doing it, then sort of interrogate the thoughts behind it. And then sort of put in a plan of action in place to sort of alleviate those sort of emotions basically.
Do you sort of do you write, say for example, within the process, does it teach you to write that? So if you go through like a feeling and an emotion comes in and it's quite overpowering, and it might affect your social instincts, how you're perceived by others, for example. So you're all bent out of shape, you're getting all emotional as it happens. Do you then have you learned a process to go, okay, that's me being emotional, that's my instinct of self, for example, my social instincts being affected, it's affecting my self-esteem, it's also making me feel less than, that might affect my security instincts, you know, my financial security or whatever. And all of a sudden you're breaking it down and going, and then you're thinking it's a fault. it's just a thought that's coming into my head. It's not real. And a friend of mine told me about false evidence appearing real. Ultimately, what we tend to think in our head is happening is false. It's false evidence appearing real, acronym for fear. And ultimately, we're just being fearful of a situation. And I remember he told me that. And every time I get that in that state of mind, I think to myself, is this false evidence appearing real? And it's never usually, because it's not happening to you right now, is it?
No.
But it's kind of this perception of what might go wrong in the future. And I suppose that's anxiety, isn't it? Like that feeling of being anxious about the future. Something's going to happen in the future. That person might not like me, or imposter syndrome. You know, why am I on the podcast if I'm, you know, why does he want to talk to me? That kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
And I think those skills are incredible. And I only really started to learn about mindfulness over the last few years, because I was a bag of fear in my head, or resentment. And, you know, I was pissed off at people, or things didn't go my way, or whatever, you know, and it was always somebody else's fault, you know, and another part of me was always in fear. I was always worried what people thought of me. You know, I was constantly worried what people thought of me. I constantly thinking my business was going to go under, constantly thinking people are going to leave my company or whatever. And it's a horrible state to be in. And I think when you get to understand your emotions and the behaviors associated to it, you become a lot more calmer. And that was mindfulness. And I started learning mindfulness, and it's just hugely helped me as a professional, as a father, and just as a person in general. And I'm a lot happier, a lot more grounded. And I realized why I did the certain things that I did.
Yeah.
But it's just, it's awareness, isn't it? And I think we live in this age where we are surrounded by things that distract us. We're surrounded by feeling less than, whether it's through social media or TV, or people driving around in really amazing cars, yet they've got them on finance, you know. We see all these things, and it kind of makes us feel shit, and less than, like we're not good enough, when in reality, most people are running around in debt and fear and worries and all that kind of stuff. And when you stop and you pause and you just step back, you think it's all just not, it's just thoughts. It's just thoughts in your head. And as you said, the leaning into it works well, doesn't it? When something comes in, it's like, well, don't be scared by it. It's like, well, what is it? Why am I feeling that way? And then you lean into it, and then it kind of just dissipates, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It goes.
Exactly. And imagine being able to do that for a client.
Yeah.
You know, if they come in with a big fear of whatever it may be, just being able to sort of sit there and comfortably have that conversation with a client, help them work it through, and then sort of come up with a plan of action that is going to, you know, help alleviate whatever they're worried about. But and that's kind of the basis of it. Is I think we in the Know Thyself course, you definitely it's pure, I'd say more pure coaching, as the name suggests, you're working on yourself, and you know, some of the stories you tell yourself, and mine is generally that I'm not good enough, but that's not everyone's. And then you know, towards the later stage, you sort of start realizing how you can actually apply this to, you know, your clients' lives and in your clients, and hopefully they can benefit from it, because obviously, as most of your listeners will know, you're planning or helping design someone's life exactly how they want, you know, and how they enjoy life, and what, you know, aligned with what they value. And obviously the money and stuff comes to support that, but obviously you've got to get that life part of it first. So if you can be comfortable having these sorts of conversations with clients, then they're going to benefit from the planning, and also be a lot more motivated to then do the boring bits about maybe investing a bit of money every month, or putting that protection policy in place, because you know that this will, you know, help you in your own life goals, basically.
I like it, mate. And I speak to a lot of financial planners and have done over the years, and I'm really liking the way financial planning is moving more into like a well-being proposition.
Yeah,
I think that coaching is key, and getting people to kind of unblock their energy, essentially. You know, everybody has like a negative energy block around something, and as you said, a story we tell ourselves, and when we let it go, that's when you're like, oh wow, it's gone, you know. It's gone. And so we carry these boulders with us throughout life,
Yeah, yeah.
And it's not until someone challenges you on it and gets you thinking. And you mentioned there about the voice in you, that telling yourself you're not good enough. I had that for a long time, long time. And it was only recently that I explored the actual tone of that voice. So when I stopped and I was like, I was meditating and I was thinking, well, who is it that's talking to me? And when you actually tune into the tone of the voice, it was very negative and very aggressive and very fearful. And it was like, wow, that's the voice that's been talking to me all my life.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, when I say voice, the internal kind of dialogue.
Yeah.
And and I really looked at that. And then I started changing the way that I was speaking to myself, being far more kinder and loving, because I can be kind and loving to other people. Why couldn't I be kind and loving to myself? And then I started thinking to myself, would you talk to, not saying I'm a boy, but that little child that we all have, in that inner child, would we talk to our inner child like that? So why would we talk to another child on the street like that? No. So why am I talking to my inner child like that? And I found it quite calming and soothing. And when I started tuning into that inner dialogue and the language I was using and the tone I was using, that was when it was like, wow, yeah, this shit's real. And then I really got it and I understood it. Yeah, and that's great. And I can relate to you with the coaching. I coach people through addiction problems. So I coach them through it. And some of the work that I've been doing with people has been amazing, like unbelievable, because they're locked and they're stuck in this thought process and they can't get out of it. And if someone's in a negative state of mind who's got an addiction problem, then there's a chance they could pick up drugs or alcohol or something. So I have to help break down the problem that they have to establish the part that they played in it, if there was one, and to help them move on and let go. And move away from it. And it's so freeing and cool to see. Definitely coaching is the way forward. I'm pleased you've done that. That's really good. And I think that experience as well is going to just stay with you, and it will develop you as a financial planner, because you're not going to be this kind of, money and everything is a byproduct of doing a job well, but you can't do it. You should do a job. You should enjoy your job.
Yeah.
By doing it well. Does that make sense? It's money is a byproduct. Money will come to you if you're enjoying it and you're doing it well, and you feel less stressed about it and guilt-free. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, I hear you. Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, great. So, okay, cool. So you're in a position at the moment with Timothy James. Okay, you're working with those guys. Fantastic. And, you've obviously been there now, what, 5 months?
I think it's about that, yeah. Seems to have flown by, but yeah, it would be about 5 months.
5 months. Great stuff. So what does the future hold for you then? What are you thinking over the next sort of year then? What are you thinking you're going to be doing? Because we're coming out of lockdown now, thank God. And you spent the last 5 months doing this job in lockdown as well, haven't you?
Yeah. It's it's been interesting. It's but it's to be honest, it's been the same for a lot of people. That have started jobs in lockdown, and they've been brilliant. Sort of embedding you in the team. Obviously, it would always be nice to sort of actually step into the office and meet them for the first time, but the reality is that's not possible. But in terms of what the future holds, I guess, I'll continue to help clients in that sort of coaching, life planning role. That I think that will stay with me forever. But it will, sorry. And then, just tick off a few things. So like internally, I still, have huge ambitions to be a planner in my own right, and not always be the trainee at the right time. So that's going to require some more development in soft skills and hopefully pick up a few exams. I've got a huge driver really to help sports people, because I think we talked about this before from a financial planning perspective, and helping them manage that change in their life with hopefully no stress, but as little stress as possible, giving them the choice the choice of career, or the choice of wherever they want to live, and that possibility story of what they want to do with their lives. And that ties in quite nicely with the coaching side of it, where you're not just a financial planner, but you can also help them develop themselves and what they value and what they want out of life post sport. So I want to change that story, because I feel, I mentioned it earlier in the podcast, but I feel there's a general message of negativity around that point in your life. And I'm not sort of saying that there isn't challenges, and those are well documented, and yeah, definitely emotionally, I felt some of those that have been talked about, but I also think it doesn't have to be like that. You can be excited about it. There's more to things in life than the sport that you're in, and if you explore those and you're well prepared, then you can really look forward to sort of life after sport. I think that would actually also help the athletes be in the moment a little bit more, appreciate what they're doing, and yeah, that's kind of mostly my future really, at the moment.
Fantastic. I love it. I think that's great. And I think the process you've gone down, you're doing this Know Thyself Academy, I think that lends itself to what you just said. Yeah, I think it's great, mate. I think you're on the right path by the signs of things.
Yeah, no, it's going well. I've got a really good support network which are helping me with it, which is the other important thing I'd like to mention. But yeah, it's going well at the moment. Enjoying the process.
Fantastic. Brilliant. Listen, thank you so much for your time today. Thanks for sharing your journey so far. And I really appreciate your time.
No, cheers, mate. Thank you.
Thanks.